Matt, usually when I first start these interviews, I kind of have my guest, kind of tell me, who is it that you are and how long have you been, how did you get here?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I want to take a different approach today. I kind of want you to talk about, the things you're working on right now
Mm-hmm.
first. The reason why is because, you know, you are a dadtrepreneur, fellow dadtrepreneur.
For sure.
And you're extremely intentional with each project that you work on. Obviously, I'm going to dive into what your story is and the obstacles that you had to face. But basically, recently, being the owner of Red Naps Burgers in downtown Rochester, you have truly elevated yourself as an entrepreneur through the power of social media and the years of editing and posting that you did consistently has accumulated over 400,000 people to follow you on all platforms, basically. And that's very impressive. And I acknowledge you, man, for the hard work you put in. And I think that's what I respect about you. So, in this interview, my intention is to kind of understand, what it is that you're passionately working on, but also, what makes you tick.
Yeah.
And I think by enlightening the world on your why will inspire them to cultivate their whys, because I think having dreams is important, what you do is important, but why you do it, the stronger that is, the further I go. I feel how you feel about that, man?
100%. And I think that's why I've always been grateful to have these conversations with you, whether it was at Naps or, doing the Louis thing, little bits here and there. Like, you're just a person that sees what I see when it comes to just wanting to get better. And it's not that, like, we're trying to be the best, in some ways, but, like, in other ways, it's like, I think we just help each other elevate, right? Not a lot of people in my life, like, read the same books and think about the world the same way I do. So, like, when we're in a situation, I just feel like I become a better human. So, yeah, I'm ready to kick it off however you want to.
Yeah, man. So with that, thank you for saying that. But two, man, what are you working on right now? What's keeping you up at night right now?
So right now, 5 years ago, I took over a 75-year-old restaurant. 75 years this year, so 70 when I bought it. Through that process, I made a conscious decision year one that I wanted to build a new business, something that scaled a little bit higher, right? When I realized, and I got the numbers in order at Naps, I realized it only gets to a certain amount. So I can build it up as much as I can here, but then I have to open a second location, or then I have to add a catering channel, or then I have to, if I wanted to scale it. So when I had that realization, I spent the last 4 years thinking of what is that? And I went through a lot of like test trials. Like I just dropped off to my sister-in-law these bamboo baby dishes. My wife and I worked on a brand called Physical Organics. At the time, I was like, okay, e-commerce, right? The marketing, they coincide. I can manage it from home. I can be there because we had been talking about having kids at that point. We could be there. So that, and then there was a couple of the e-commerce brands that we created, but I just wasn't it, right? My gut wasn't telling me go for it on this thing. So since October, I launched a new business called Restaurant Reach, where basically I show restaurant owners how to take marketing into their own hands instead of paying people monthly fees. And having people on retainer, you can just either do it yourself in-house in 15 minutes a day, or you can hire somebody where that's part of their job, right? Yeah. So they're doing this and that because it's only taking, 3 hours a month is how I've got the systems down to this point to get the amount of videos that I want to get out.
I hope you, the viewers, take this as another sign that I truly just, want to add value. I'm not trying to sell anything. What Matt just said is totally opposite of what I offer. I offer content for businesses. So if you're a restaurant owner, you don't want to create the content, you can hire someone like me to do it. But the fact that I'm bringing Matt on, somebody that says, no, you can do this yourself if you truly want to, or you can have one of your staff members or, collectively make that a part of the work description. At the end of the day, I just want people to win. I think there's enough for all of us to eat. When I was I remember flying over Philadelphia at night, and I saw all the lights all across. And I'm thinking to myself, man, there is so many people here. Like our own life, man, is just like a speck in
looking at all
in the sand on a beach, right? Like we're just the grain of sand in that. So like for me, I just think that there's an abundant world out here. It's not in scarcity. I think that it is abundant. I think there's a lot more good people than bad people. I think there's a lot more beautiful destinations than bad ones. I think there's a lot more kindness that goes on a day-to-day basis. But unfortunately, we live in a society where the negativity sells.
That's the biggest seller.
So how did you, man, become somebody that, can gain 400,000 people to not just like your stuff, millions like your stuff, but to follow you? You did that through positivity. I never seen a negative Matt do right video, right?
I was very intentional about the do right too, because when 2018 when we first met, I was going through just a weird pocket in my life, and I just needed to get out of the life I was in to the life I was in. So I made up this mantra while I just sat in my basement. Party was going on upstairs, and it was, you do the right things happen. And I don't know, like, it's so simple and obvious, but like that kept me going, because for the long time I would just not care what I did, right? And those actions got me into trouble, led me to bad. Exactly.
You were mad do wrong.
And they were leading me all in the wrong places, and it was so, like, I felt so stupid after I said it the first time, because I was like, duh, like you do good by other people, like good things happen, like you do the right thing, and so I just made sure that was just consistent in my head, and it took years to, like, where it just became me. But I would always say it because I'm like, I feel like, am I doing the right thing? Am I heading the right path? Yeah. Check my intentions. Am I doing the right thing? I know I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. Keep pushing forward, right? And so that's when I, instead of Matt Kirshner and putting that out there, which is my name, but do right just made too much sense, right? My first company was called Right Track Media. You're on the right track, doing the right things. Like, that's always been such a focus in my life. To just, well, not always, but when I made that shift, and then that's what happened. So
I think when a lot of people, I think we as human beings, at some point in our life, we hit quote unquote bottom. Mm-hmm. And I think bottom, what bottom is, the definition of the bottom is a point in your life in which you say, there's only up from here. Yeah. Right? It seems like during that time period, were you going through bottom, or was this like a little bit after you hit the bottom and you were on the right track? Like, what was that journey like for you?
I feel like I had a bottom and then like another bottom. So like I'll just get into it. Like, so basically when I was 19 years old, me and a buddy moved to Chicago and didn't really know what to do. We didn't have any money, and we were just trying to like figure it out. So I made a bad mistake by robbing my drug dealer. I went there to get weed, and we are going to take it back to Chicago and sell it. Again, doing the wrong things. Yeah. But that led me to getting arrested, and that led me to going to prison. So I spent like 2.5 years of my life in and out of jail and in prisons, mainly for like driving on a suspended license, which a lot of it was going to work. But like that big one, right? So larceny from a building, stealing cannabis from this person's house, led me to prison. And so like being in prison was definitely my rock bottom. So right before I went, it was like 9 months before I got sent there. And to me and my business partner at the time, the one that got in trouble with, not from that standpoint, but we were building a company called Make a Difference Entertainment. And we were trying to that was like my first company, right? Didn't make any money, but their intention was to build a collective of artists, of people just doing different stuff and elevating each other. And like, that was like our mission, but we were doing the wrong stuff. So like the right things weren't happening. And so when we got in trouble, we just said, like, together, we got to just lock in. We can't keep doing this. We need to start studying business, because that's what we've been doing this whole time, but we haven't been studying. We've just been like partying and like, doing the wrong stuff. And but like we were putting the work in. We'd work 12-14 hours a day recording and editing and like just trying to figure out the systems, but it got to that was like my first rock bottom, and him and I sat down and we just started going to the day room, which is like a TV where you can walk around. We woke up super early because, like, again, knowing that that's part of what you need to do, or a process of. We got up super early. The CEOs were cool about it. They let us in there by ourselves. We put on shows like The Profit and Shark Tank, and like we just took notes. We learned what equity was. We learned all these different little things that they teach in the show. They're not teaching, but they are, right? And like if you take the right things from it. So that was my first rock bottom. But I felt like I was like, oh, once I get out of here, it's gonna be awesome. And when I did, I ended up going through prison, and then I got out.
How long were you in there for?
So I've done a total of 2.5 years. That time was 16 months. So from start to finish, yeah.
And you were 19, you said?
Yeah, 19.
So all of your buddies were all going to college.
Exactly.
And you were in
Starting
jail.
their lives. And my 21st birthday, like I had a honey bun and like just like put some Butterfinger on top of it as like my birthday cake type deal, you know?
In prison?
Right, exactly.
Were people in prison with you? Were they celebrating your birthday with you?
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like, it's not what you think it is. You know what I'm saying?
Like
it's a different, exactly. It's a different world, but like, don't start no shit, won't be no shit. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just kind of vibed with everybody, but I also really just did myself. I paced a lot. Like, I just walked. I tried to like, again, positive affirmations, stuff like that. Not the whole time, but that back end of time, right?
Yeah,
and that was when I
realized you needed to switch some shit up.
Exactly. So I got blessed to go to this thing called SAI Boot Camp, and it's basically 90 days. Like, you can't talk to anybody, can't look at anybody. You keep your head down. It's a military-based, get your shit together and get out, right?
90 days?
90 days of, like, when you're sitting and eating at the chow hall, you got to keep your head down. You can't talk to nobody. Like, there's times to talk to people, right? There's, like, little pockets where, and then the further you get along and they see you're doing the right thing, they give you a little bit more freedom, a little bit more lax, right? So it's like, it wasn't as intense, but, like, you get in trouble, they'll make you fill a 5-gallon bucket of water because they can't make you do push-ups anymore. You have to dip your hands in and flick it on a tree and go, grow, tree, grow, until the water's gone. Like, that type of mental, like, like, but seeing that, and then, like, trying not to laugh because you gotta be quiet, you know? But, like, it was a mental challenge, but those guys put a lot of faith into me, and there was a guy named Daryl. Daryl introduced me to all the books that I needed to be successful when I got out. This guy was a self-made millionaire, worked as a, you know, corporal guy, you know, went through the military, whatever, so he didn't have a crazy income, but he got to $1 a day thing. And he said, just for this season of my life, I'm spending $1 a day. Whether that's if I can afford a cup of coffee or I want to grab a Kit Kat or whatever it is. And he was just racking up his money. He was learning how to sell his paintings online. He was doing all these things to accumulate wealth with not having wealth. And I was like, is this guy like full of shit, you know? Or is he like saying something good? So like, you know, Napoleon Hill's How to Win Friends and Influence People was on that list. There's a lot of books like that. And what's funny is when I got out and I was in that grind mode, I had just that paper lost somewhere. And I started reading all these books. And then like a year later, I opened up this thing and I was like, holy shit. All these books I had just read are on his page. He was like, this is a legit guy, right? Yeah. He had such good intentions to teach people like to like be successful when they got out in this situation where in most jails and prisons they don't care what happens to you. You know, it's like they're just like, oh, we'll see you again in 3 weeks, or see you, like it's very much that. And so like seeing people be successful out of it, I think it's like a 67 recidivism rate. So like after 5 years of getting out of prison, 67% of people end up back. And like that, like I wanted to be the other side of that, you know? So when I was going through this boot camp, I had to do that. So that was like my first rock bottom. But then there was like I don't know, maybe a year period. So I got out, I was 21 when everything was said and done, 22. And so from 22 to 24, it was all like me having to pull myself out of my old way because I really wanted to be this guy, but it was so hard to break out of these habits. And it was just so back and forth that was like the next rock bottom because I was still not fully doing the right thing, right? I had my hands in too many different directions. And so 24, that was my next rock bottom where I was just like, I have to lock in. And then so from 24 to 26, that's all I did was listen to podcasts and audiobooks and write and just try to build these businesses. Like I came up with this late night concept, like again, a lot of testing and seeing what's going to work, what's not going to work. And then 2 years later, an opportunity presents itself because I had been doing the right things consistently. I've been putting in the work and I finally knew this was my time. But if you go back to 22-year-old Matt, I got offered equity in a restaurant to stay when I was 22. They said, we'll give you 4%. You run the show just like you're doing right now, and it's good. And I'm like, I wanted my own business my whole life. Like, this is the opportunity. But the more I sat and thought about it, the more I looked at the numbers, even though I didn't understand them that well, I was like, there's 4 other owners in this. Like, I'm going to be the active owner. I'm going to be here every day. And is whatever that comes out of it, no matter how big we make it, is it going to be worth it? So I had to make this terrible decision where I was like, okay, if I say no to this thing, what have I been doing this whole time? I've been preparing, for these opportunities, thinking about this. But at the other side, I got to like make this decision. So I said no. And for 6 months, I was just beating myself up. Like, did I make the wrong decision? Like, oh my God. But then fast forward a year and a half from there, NAPS came and I knew that it was the right decision. I knew I was ready. And I look back on that time and I think maybe I knew I wasn't ready then, right? I still had that 2-year gap that I was like not fully in. Like I was too many directions. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at today with NAPS. It's like after 24, that rock bottom propelled me to be able to open that place at 26. So 22 and 24 rock bottom, yeah, 19, I guess too. There was a lot, but I think that last one where I just like fully like I did something where Gary Vee's like, if you're hanging out with a bunch of loser friends, like you're perceived as a loser, and if that's what like you want to be, that's fine. But like if you're talking about crazy ambitions, you need to like act like you're crazy ambitious. You need to do the work. And so like the people I was partying with, and like that was my life, was like work hard, work 50, 60, 80 hours for someone else, and then I'd use all that money and I'd go party, and like I'd work hard, play hard. And when I got rid of the play hard and realized I played long enough, 13 to 24 is a good stretch, Yeah. That's when the shift happened, and I sat down with my best friends, and I was just like, I love you guys to death. I'm always here, like, but we lived all together. So I was like, I've been talking about building businesses forever. You guys know this. What I'm doing is not driving me there. So like, I'm not moving out or anything like that, but I do have to, like, I'm going to be very isolated for a little while. I need to like figure this stuff out. And so like 6 months of when our lease ended, from that point, like I went through that same cycle. Did I make the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? I'm like crying in the basement, like writing down, like just keep going, like keep pushing. Like a lot of people my whole life says I'm driven, and I'm never related with that concept. Like from the outside, I guess it feels like that. But I think the overarching thing that they're missing is how I feel, at least, is just like I'm not willing to give up. Whatever situation I get put in, like I just want to like finish the goal. When I went to prison, I was like, okay, I just want to finish this thing, right? Yeah. When I started NAPS and I knew that it was a 5-year intention, I knew I wanted to work as hard as I could, that whole thing, and finish this thing, right? It wasn't like I should get lazy towards the end because like I'm doing this other stuff and I got these 2 other businesses. And it's like, no, I want to like really finish these things and do them the right way. And I don't know if that's drive for me personally. I think that's more just like I'm not willing to give up until the thing is done,